Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring a deeply mysterious, honestly fascinating corner of astrological psychology, the sun in the eighth house. We're going to unpack some profound insights about solar transformations and really get into what makes this incredibly intense personality profile tick. Whether you're a total astrology enthusiast or just someone fascinated by human psychology and the sheer depth of the human experience, this breakdown is going to give you a crystal clear understanding of a uniquely intense placement.
Okay, let's dive into this. Do you ever feel like you just have X-ray vision when it comes to what people are really thinking or feeling? Actually, scratch that. I'm not talking about literal comic book superpowers here, but rather a profound, almost instinctual ability to sense hidden motives and those unspoken truths lingering in a room. If that resonates with you, or maybe you know someone who operates exactly like this, you are definitely going to want to pay very close attention today.
Before we get too deep, let's quickly define our terms. The eighth house is the astrological realm heavily associated with transformation, psychological depth, shared resources, secrecy, crisis rebirth cycles, and uncovering hidden truths. And this brilliantly illustrates the foundation of what we're looking at today. When a person has their sun placed in this specific house, their core identity, their very awareness, is fundamentally hardwired to hidden power dynamics. They don't just see the surface, they immediately see the gears turning beneath it.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with your hidden X-ray vision, then power, trust, and resources. Next, the art of crisis, and finally, cycles of rebirth.
All right, let's jump into section 1, your hidden X-ray vision. We're talking perception and intense inner worlds. It turns out that individuals with this placement develop a remarkably strong, almost uncanny X-ray vision for people's motives. Picture yourself in a room where a loud argument just broke out. While everyone else is completely focused on the angry words being shouted, the eighth house sun is doing something different. They're listening to the silence. They possess this natural ability to sense what others are actively trying not to say. And this kicks into high gear during emotionally charged situations. They just naturally bypass the superficial script and read the hidden subtext of human behavior. Now, what's super interesting here is how this perceptive ability naturally dictates what they're into. Because they have this X-ray vision, they're naturally drawn to hidden or even taboo subjects. Things that might make the average person squirm are incredibly fascinating to them. They gravitate toward fields like psychology, occult studies, trauma healing, and investigation. Basically, they are fundamentally drawn to anything that operates behind the curtain. They want to know exactly how the magic trick is done, what makes the human mind tick, and how to heal our unseen wounds. And this brings us to a really stark contrast in how they approach life. Looking at side A, we have surface-level living. Small talk, casual acquaintances, keeping things light and breezy. The eighth house sun would frankly rather watch paint dry than do that. Instead, they live almost entirely on side B, which is all about all or nothing emotional intensity. For these folks, relationships and life experiences are absolutely never shallow. They don't just wade in the shallow end, they dive straight into the deep end, treating every single connection as a profoundly intense experience. Moving right along to section 2, power, trust, and resources. This is all about navigating the relational world. So that massive internal intensity inevitably spills over into their relationships, which turns power dynamics into absolute non-negotiable life lessons. It's basically a 3-step learning curve. Step 1 is understanding control, both their own intense desire for it and recognizing when others are trying to wield it over them. Step 2 is navigating trust, which is a massive hurdle we're going to touch on in just a second. And step 3 is balancing emotional dependency. These aren't just passing phases. They're the fundamental core relationship challenges the eighth house sun has to figure out throughout their lives. And regarding that second step, trust is a central theme, earned slowly, broken deeply. Take a second to really think about the weight of that. Because they instantly see through superficiality, they absolutely do not hand out their trust lightly. You have to earn it step by step over a long period of time. They are highly, highly selective about who they actually open up to. But because that trust represents such a massive, all-or-nothing investment for them, if it ever gets broken, that fracture is incredibly deep and famously difficult to repair. But wait, the eighth house isn't just about emotional ties. It's also deeply connected to highly tangible shared resources. Things like finances tied directly to partners and family become critical learning areas. Plus, they very often have significant ties to shared resources involving larger institutions or even inheritances. It's really all about how money, value, and resources are merged, shared, and ultimately managed between people. It's yet another massive arena where power dynamics and trust are constantly being tested. All right, section 3,
The art of crisis, the crucible of change. When trust gets tested or resources are threatened, pressure builds, right? But here is the real kicker. Because they live with such an intensely high emotional baseline every single day, when a real crisis hits, they don't panic. Actually, they become highly skilled at crisis management. When things go totally sideways, when situations become emotionally chaotic or frankly terrifying for everyone else, this individual steps right up as the steady rock in the storm. Others just naturally lean on them during emergencies because they possess the depth and that unflinching perception needed to navigate the absolute darkest of times. And that brings us to Section 4, Cycles of Rebirth, the Ultimate Transformation. Let's see how all of this builds into the absolute climax of this placement. Everything we've discussed essentially creates a true phoenix journey, pushing them through these repeated, sequenced transformations. It always follows a distinct pattern. Phase 1 starts with endings and losses. A chapter of life completely, undeniably closes. This forces them right into Phase 2, which involves intense, often really difficult turning points. But thankfully, it doesn't end in loss. The climax is Phase 3. Major identity shifts. The crisis and the loss serve purely as the fuel for a completely new version of themselves to emerge. This entire process of moving through the phoenix journey allows them to create these incredibly powerful rebirth identities. The sun in this house literally acts as a catalyst for reinvention. After these major psychological shifts, they have this remarkable ability to completely reinvent themselves, and not just once, but multiple times throughout their life. Just when you think you have them completely figured out, boom, they transform. They rise from the ashes of their past experiences as someone entirely new and much more evolved. So, what is the ultimate goal of all this transformation? The X-ray vision, the intense relationships, the crisis management, it's all about uncovering hidden truths about yourself over time. For the 8th house sun, true growth and self-awareness don't come from just chasing surface-level external success. No way. It comes exclusively through intense, dedicated inner work. Every crisis they navigate, every relationship they test, every single rebirth they achieve, it's all just a mechanism for them to deeply understand their own psychological truths. So the absolutely crucial point to take away today is this. Transformation is not a destination for this placement, it is the very engine of their existence. Whether you personally have this placement or you're simply fascinated by the wild depths of human resilience, it kind of forces all of us to look a little closer at the shadows we usually try to avoid. I want to leave you with this provocative thought. As you navigate your own cycles of crisis and rebirth in life, what hidden truths will your own inner work reveal? Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today. Keep learning, and I will see you next time.